Namaste. In today's video, I'm going to talk about transgenerational trauma. That is trauma that is passed on from one generation to another generation. How does this trauma affect the future generations? How does it take away opportunities from them? How does it affect their relationships? And how does or how can this lead to a spiritual awakening? And in a spiritual awakening process, why do we need to work through generational trauma to evolve on the spiritual path? When there are narcissistic parents, even if there is one narcissistic parent, it could be either the mother or the father, or it could be both of them, or it could be the grandparents, the uncles, the aunts, or maybe they were narcissists in the bloodline in the past generations, say past 6, 7 generations. They could be narcissistic grandparents or great grandparents or parents. So how does this affect the next generation? Typically, narcissism, it is self-serving. The person does not care about another person because all their activities, all their attention is self-directed. And they are in constant competition with everybody around them. There are a lot of power plays happening here, and the narcissist really does not care how it affects their child. So they put their child through unwanted, unnecessary trauma. And narcissistic people are more or less like children at a soul level. They have not yet developed the maturity to navigate life, to have a personality which has a mix of good and bad. That has not yet happened to the narcissist. They have to take many more lifetimes to reach that state. I made a video on psychology, narcissism. Entire playlist is there with many videos. So please check out that and you will understand how soul evolution is linked to narcissism. So when parents are basically takers and they don't like to give, they give negligence, they give abuse, they take away the child's basic right to live a healthy physical and mental life. So here what happens is, whatever the parent is doing, as I said earlier, it is self-serving. So it is all about, punishing, ridiculing the child, shaming the child for every small thing, or they will use their resources and the resources of many generations for their ego aggrandizement, rather than spending it on the well-being of their child. The child, as far as the child is concerned, even the child's basic needs are considered to be luxuries by these parents, whereas their luxuries are their basic needs. The elders here can hoard property, they can hoard wealth, but they refuse to give their children their fair share of property, especially when they are in their struggling times. I have known a lady, she had these narcissistic traits and she refused to part with some of the ancestral money with her own son when he was in dire need of medical attention. And she threw out his widow and her grandchildren from her house because she wanted the entire house for herself. So here this lady had no sense of guilt for refusing to pay for her son's cancer treatment, even when she was very wealthy to do it, and she was even refusing to help out her little grandchildren. So this is the level of selfishness that can be there in a narcissistic parent. So the narcissistic parent, basically they want to use up all the resources, and many a times they make a lot of loans and they pass on those loans to their children. Many narcissistic people generate a lot of bad will around them. They are not liked by their own relatives or community or friends. So they generally have a bad reputation. And that reputation gets caught on with the child. Apart from this, a narcissistic parent uses every opportunity to turn it against their child. Because when they do this, they have more power over the child. They can control the child. They can punish the child. They can ridicule the child. They can malign the child. They can frame the child, blame the child, brand the child as a bad person, insult, abuse. And they abuse them in the name of moral superiority or discipline. While doing this, they break the confidence of the child. Many parents, grandparents, when they have certain bad situations happening in their life because of their own deeds, they blame their little kids for their own bad times. They call that child, maybe a 3-year-old child, as unlucky. And he is constantly told that he has brought a lot of ill luck onto the family. They compare the child with others and they belittle the child constantly. They do not provide opportunities for growth. They don't invest in the education of the child, in skill development of the child. They do not allow the child to understand their inner potentials. And the parent is in constant competition with the child. I have known certain narcissistic mothers, they are so much in competition with their daughters, especially when their daughter is beautiful, they cannot accept it. They never tell their daughter that she looks good, and then wherever the chance comes, they compare their daughter with a normal average person and they tell her that she's ugly. Or they try to make her look bad in front of everybody so that the daughter will lose confidence upon herself to the extent that she will constantly question her self-worth. Even the sons, they reach certain age in their life where they're constantly questioning their self-worth no matter how much they succeed. And many of our attachment styles or the kind of styles that abused children take as they grow up is they go that extra mile to prove to the world that they are capable of doing things. And the reason they need to do that is this inner voices, the voice of the father telling the son that you are not worthy of respect. You cannot achieve anything in life. You are just waste. Your life is waste. So this inner father's voice is constantly repeating in the son's head even when he is working, when he has become very successful in life. And whenever he listens to the voice, he drives himself forward to achieve more, to prove to himself that his father was wrong. Or on the other side, the son may go into depression and may not achieve anything in life because he has already resigned to the fate that he is worthless. Many children believe whatever their parents say because the children, for them, the parents are gods. So whatever the parents tell them, many children, when they are innocent, they just accept these statements. They are not even questioning these statements. So they sort of start to believe whatever false images the parent are creating about the child just accepts it and resigns to his fate. The potential of the child is never told to the child because the parent here is in competition with the child. They do not want the child to know their potential. The child is constantly challenged and told that they are not worthy of any adoration or love. Many parents actually withhold their love from their children. So the child is always deprived of a lot of things in life. And some of these children even turn into people pleaser. They want to please everybody around them because they lived in fear when they were with their parents, and they had to please their parents to make sure they survive their childhood. And that turns into a people pleasing nature. So parents in many ways they sabotage the future of their children. Many parents even exploit the children's earnings. They guilt trip the child into giving them their money, and they misuse the finances of the child. So here we have to understand that the thoughts, the intentions of the parent towards the child should always be good. If they are not good, if they have certain ill intentions, that ill intentions are constantly being projected onto the child. If in one generation so many ill intentions are getting projected onto the child, imagine in the previous 6 to 7 generations how many grandparents, how many grandaunts, granduncles, aunts, uncles, how many of them were sending ill intentions to the next generation in the bloodline. So by the time the 6th, the 7th generation in the bloodline is reached, that child has the baggage of all the ill intentions of the previous generations, because at every level the parent or one of the parents was constantly watching over the child to see if the child would do something wrong. The moment they would do some mistake, the child would be punished. So the child lived in fear, and the parents' attitude towards the child is that there's a constant ill intention running towards the child. Because here the child is an unwanted burden. Some styles taken up by children who were abused in childhood is, especially when their basic needs were not met, as they grow older, they deny themselves of good things. And even when their basic needs are not met, they say that, I don't see that this is an important thing. It is okay even if my basic needs are not met. Or they may go on to the other side and say, I want to live on my own. I will not depend on anybody in my entire life. Here, this type of a behavior comes because the child at a very young age realizes that the parent is seeing him or her as a burden, and hence this child decides that they will never ever get into such a situation in their adult age. So here you have to understand that the effects of the parents' intentions towards their children, it has a huge effect on how the child grows up and how the child perceives life, how they live their life, their perception about themselves, their perception about others, whether they succeed, whether they fail, are they depressed, are they attracting opportunities or are they attracting ill luck, how is their financial stability, how is their health, do they have relationship issues, are they being subjected to more abuse, are they attracting more bad people into their life? All these things are linked to the intentions parents send to their children. We carry the DNA of our parents within us. The DNA, it has the voices of our ancestors in it. Normally, we don't listen much to these voices because our subconscious mind is locked up. But in a spiritual awakening process, the subconscious mind opens up. So even when you don't have an awakening, these voices of our ancestors, which are deeply embedded within our mind, they are there and they are affecting our behaviors, our level of confidence, our self-worth, issues like self-hatred. All these things they are influencing. They're influencing and they're there deep in the subconscious mind. But in a spiritual awakening process, when the subconscious mind is gradually opening up, these voices come out louder. And part of the process is to deal with these voices. Our subconscious mind, it records long-term memory, our memories of many lifetimes. The ancestral voices are there in it. If you can imagine your DNA as a voice recording machine, it has recorded all the voices of your ancestors, their thoughts, their intentions are recorded in it. And the collective intentions and thoughts of the previous 6 to 7 generations are there in your DNA. How many of these thoughts were good intention thoughts, and how many of these thoughts were ill intention thoughts? We have no idea. Maybe we know our parents, maybe we know our grandparents, and maybe their intention towards us was always good. But what about the generations before that? What sort of people were there? We have no idea. But yet their voices are there within us. So when we have narcissistic parents in our life, even one of them is narcissistic, or grandparents or uncles or aunts, the child feels or is made to feel guilty. The child is told that he or she is bad, that they are a burden. The child is frightened. They don't feel safe. Even as an adult, they still don't feel safe in an environment. They always feel threatened. The child feels undeserving of love. They blame themselves if something goes wrong. They have a lot of pain to process. And this pain is very deep. This pain is so much that it clogs their psychic system, and they are not able to understand their emotions. They are not able to process their emotions properly. They get angry, but they don't know why they're angry. Some kids get confused mixed signals from their parents. They're not sure whether their parents love them or whether they hate them. So all these things, it creates a kind of a situation within their psyche where there are a lot of unprocessed emotions. And part of the emotion that this child has to deal with is self-hatred. Many even hate their life, they hate themselves. They hate themselves because their parents hated them. They blame themselves for their parents' hatred towards them. Many of us are not familiar with psychology or narcissistic personality disorder, and hence, when you are an empath born in such a family, the tendency to blame yourself for your parents' faults is much higher. Many such children, when they grow up into adult age, there is a little boy or a little girl inside in the mind still crying, who is still frightened, who still blames himself or herself, who still feels undeserving of love. And hence, many of these people are not able to form healthy physical or mental relationships with others as they grow and come of age. Many of them don't understand their true potential because they were used and abused. They were never told what their potential was. They were never appreciated. So they get to be blamed for everything. They think that bad things happen around them, accidents happen around them. They get into self-destructive behaviors where they become addicts. They start drinking alcohol, smoking, because this gives them a sense of relief from the situation. And moreover, many of these people in their adult age, they don't respect or value their body and mind because their parents have already told them that they're garbage, that they're worthless. So when they are worthless, they can as well spoil their body and mind. They don't understand that their body and mind is divine, and hence they go into the path of self-destruction. Many of them can go towards attempting suicides. They have attachment styles in relationships, and hence the relationships they form become unhealthy. They have people pleasing behaviors. They don't take care of themselves. They deny themselves of certain things which are even very important and daily part of life. They even deny themselves of those things. They'll feel guilty for everything. Even if something wrong or bad happens around them and it happens without their involvement, they still blame themselves for it. They feel lost. They don't want to depend on anybody else because they don't trust anybody, or they might become over dependent, over attached. Many of these people, as they grow older, when they really need help, they don't seek. They don't seek help because the parents did not help them. When they asked for help, they knew that their parent would decline the help or the parent would punish them for asking for help. So that is still there in their mind. So even when they grow older and they really need help and support, they refuse to approach anybody, even their close aides or friends, for any kind of support or help. They have self-worth issues, self-hatred. No matter how hardworking, how intelligent, and how much potential this person has, they do not succeed. They do not attract opportunities, and the struggling period is much longer. Say, for example, when somebody starts working, maybe they experience a struggling period of 4 to 5 years before they really establish themselves very well. But when somebody is very abused and has had received lot of ill intentions from his ancestors and from the parents, this person will have extra struggling period in life. There will be a period where they will not attract anything good in spite of having lot of potential skills. They have a lot of degrees. They're capable of doing good work. People who are less competent than them, they will be getting jobs and opportunities, whereas this person is actually very highly qualified, but they still do not attract the right job or the right opportunity or the right person into their life. So the reason for this is the parents' ill intention towards the child constantly. It sabotages the child. We have an auric field. The auric field, it protects our psychic energy. This auric field, when it receives a lot of ill intentions, it weakens. When this auric field is flowing very strongly, it flows very strongly in a child who has had a healthy upbringing. They're physically, mentally, emotionally strong. But when we have narcissistic parents and these parents are constantly sending us ill will, when they look in our direction, it is always judgmental. It is always with the idea to punish or to control or to put fear. This is the kind of intention or motive of the parent. This auric field, because it has received so much of ill intentions from the parents, it flows weak. And when the auric field flows weak, the child, as they grow up, they do not attract good things into their life. They can go into the wrong path. They can become addicts. They lose interest in life. They want to waste their life away. Many can commit suicide. Their opinion about themselves is distorted. Their opinion about the world is distorted. Because the child here is trying to define himself or herself by the memories or by the experiences that the parent has given them. In a way, the parent is defining the kind of experiences or the kind of distortions the child will have in their mind when they're growing, because the impressions happen at a very young age. So here, as they grow up, and if they have a spiritual awakening process, all these things will come out to be processed by the child. So as I said earlier, the auric field, which is normally flowing healthy in somebody when they have healthy parents, the healthy parents are constantly looking at their child with kindness, with love. They want to provide opportunities for the growth of child. They are taking care of the child's needs. They're keeping the child in a safe place. And whenever they look at their child, their intention is to help, to aid in their growth, to show the child their potential, to bless the child, to pray for the child, to wish the child well, or to give the child. So this constant good intention that is coming from the parents towards the child, or the grandparents, or the uncles and aunts, or the previous generation, their intentions, all those intentions, good, bad, everything is there in our DNA. And when the child is receiving good intentions from his ancestors, parents, uncles, aunts, this auric field is flowing very strong. And hence, they grow up as healthy in body and mind. They attract opportunities. They have good relationships in life. They get to understand their potential. They're able to create a career for themselves. And then later in life, they can become more productive and they can even help their societies to grow. So here, they attract more success because the auric field is flowing nicely. Whereas a child who has been abused, their auric field goes weak. When the auric field grows weak, the child has to first heal himself or heal herself. When such children have a spiritual awakening process, they have to spend a major part, many years of their life dealing with this trauma and pain. Because in a spiritual awakening process, everything that is repressed comes out. So we have to first deal with all those repressed things, not just of ours, but even of our ancestral, the tree, the people that are there in the ancestry. We have to deal with all the baggage. And many children actually have a spiritual awakening because of lot of trauma. Trauma also can cause a spiritual awakening process. So here is the generational trauma that is getting transferred from one level to the next level. So the intergenerational trauma, it gets heavier and heavier, and by the time it comes to the 6th or 7th generation, they are carrying the most amount of pain when compared to the previous 6 generations, because the effect of our previous 7 generations is there on us, and our effect is there on the next 7 generations. So here, when we have a spiritual awakening process, and when we are going through this intense emotional turmoil, trying to understand relationships, especially in that phase where we are cutting away from karmic cords or karmic relationships are going out of our life, this is where we start processing a lot of emotions within us accurately. We're trying to understand how our ancestors are, how we are, and then at a point we need to understand here, or maybe it will come to you as an insight or as an understanding that there was nothing inherently wrong with you. It was just that the parents or the grandparents were narcissistic in nature. They did not know how to live their life. They did not know how to process their pain. Hence, they dumped their pain onto their children. So, we need to understand first that we are carrying a lot of generational trauma. And the previous behaviors which I spoke about in this video, where how somebody reacts as an adult when they have generational trauma, like they can be a people pleaser, they can have too much of self-hate, they can be an overachiever, they can work themselves to death because they want to tell their inner voice. That inner child inside of them is crying. The child, when this person was 5 or 6 years old, helpless in front of their parent, the child is still crying inside. The child is not yet healed. Because the child is not healed, the inner crying child is affecting the adult person's choices externally. And we have to address this inner child in our spiritual awakening process. Until the inner child is not addressed, our auric field will not become strong. So we are still ruminating, we are still aggrieved by our past, or we are ruminating over our past. So here we need to understand that we have taken on a lot of intergenerational trauma. Here we should decide that we should not transfer this trauma to the next generation. Though we have received a lot of pain from our parents, and we are able to understand that transferring this pain to the next generation is not necessary. It will bring them bad luck. It will bring them lost opportunities, lost relationships. It will ruin their life. When you understand that and decide not to transfer the pain onto the next generation, rather everything has to stop with you. And here this person needs to take up spiritual practices. Because of transgenerational trauma, our vibration level has fallen so low that our auric field is not flowing properly. So first we need to heal. And how do we heal? We heal by taking up sadhana. It could be yoga, it could be breath work, it could be selfless service, it could be mantra chanting, it could be a kind of devotion to a deity, daily prayer ritual. All these things, they allow you to transmute your inner pain into higher vibrational things. And that transmutation, even the pain that the parent is giving to the child, it is energy. This energy can be transmuted into something higher within you. And spiritual practices are the channels, or the instruments through which we can convert anything lower in vibration to higher vibration within us. We need to understand that our parents did not know what they were doing. They did not understand that life need not be lived from fear. They were not spiritually developed. They themselves were in a lot of pain, and hence they transferred the pain to us. They were not thinking, they were not questioning their pain. They were just caught up in their own workings of the mind, or in their own loops, behavioral loops, thought loops. They could not rise above it. And hence they transferred their inner pain, their inner hatred, the self-hatred they had. They were incapable of loving their child. They transferred all that to the child. So here, once we make a decision that this will stop with us and I will not transfer this to the next generation, the thing that we need to do is to understand our parent and then forgive them and release them. After that, you have to do sadhana. When you do sadhana and the subconscious mind opens up, a lot of repressed memories, thoughts start coming up. Here, the person has to question their thoughts because he has to understand that these thoughts don't, he is not the source of all the thoughts. Many thoughts that are there in our DNA can belong to your ancestors. And the ancestors' thoughts are playing out. The ancestors' ill intentions towards the next generation is playing out in the mind. So, the parent's voice is constantly heard in the person's mind. And this parent's voice is affecting the inner child in the person. As I said earlier, our inner self is breaking. It is becoming to one, it is becoming the voice of the parent, and then it is becoming that child also, which was in that situation. So the voice of the parent is judgmental, it is critical, there is hate, because that is what this person received from their ancestors. And the inner child feels frightened, unsafe, feels like he cannot trust the environment or the parent. The child feels deprived, feels undeserving of love. So this inner war is happening inside in this person's head. Even when this person crosses the age of 50 or 55, these voices are still there. The voice of the parent, which was judgmental, which was critical, it is still there. And the voice of the inner child, which pleaded, which cried, which was frightened, that is also there. And in fact, you will hear these voices more now, because until the age of 45, 50, we are so engrossed in work, in bringing up children, in a lot of activities, that we sort of put aside our inner voices. We are not dwelling upon them much. They do come, they do express themselves, and we know that these voices are there within us. But these voices actually come out full force when you cross 50 or 55, because there now you have the time to ruminate, to think over these thoughts. Now they're heard louder. Especially you have a spiritual awakening process, they become very loud within you. They can create havoc in your life at that age. So here it is important to understand that these voices within us, they are very strong because they have the intensity of all the ill intentions of our ancestors. The ill intentions of our ancestors, our parents, there is an emotion attached to it, and that emotion becomes very strong within us, and it gets expressed in the form of self-hatred, self-denial. So here, the moment you understand this and understand that you are not the source for the feeling of self-hatred or self-denial, it becomes easier for you to come out of that mindset. It becomes easier for you to understand that all that things that went wrong in your life was because, especially in the phase where you were trying to build your life when you were on your own feet, things did not work your way, a lot of ill luck, a lot of lost opportunities, and you blamed yourself for it. These are actually the ill intentions of the parents that are right now working against us in our life. When we do sadhana, we overcome these ill intentions. We convert them into something lighter within us, into forgiveness, into greater understanding, into knowledge of self, into self-love, into understanding your potential as a person. And many of these people who have healed themselves, they become very empowered empaths, and they rise to a level where they can even get others out of their personal pain. They can heal others because they have risen above their personal pain, they can do that to others. Apart from that, they can create a lot of intellectual wealth, a lot of new opportunities for the next generation, because these people are more empowered. They understand themselves. Once you understand yourself, you are a very empowered person. Your ability to contribute to the next generation, your ability to understand life and pass on that intelligence to the next generation. Everybody has different types of potentiality depending on their field of work. So wherever they're working, they become top contributors. That is because after healing yourself, you become so empowered from within that later on, even if somebody is trying to send negative intentions towards you, your auric field is flowing so strong that you can just repel it immediately. And you understand these things very well. So you know you need to take care of yourself. You have to understand that you need to release trauma. And once you release trauma, you become emotionally, physically, and mentally a healthy person. So, sadhana, in a way, it releases this pain by healing you. Apart from that, in India, we have a custom where we are doing Pitru Tarpan, that is, we offer certain rituals to our dead ancestors. So, if you come from a culture where the dead ancestors are honored, when you are doing these rituals, you are in a way dissolving the egoic structures of the ancestors within your own genetic material. The ancestors' voices are there within us. Their intentions are in our DNA. So when you are respecting your ancestors and you are offering certain rituals to your ancestors, you are dissolving the egoic structure connection, this connection which causes pain, trauma to the next generations. Those things are being dissolved by these rituals, and hence it can release you from a lot of pain and trauma. And how do you know that the ill intentions of the parents or ancestors are there in the family? If you look at your family, if your family was very rich about 3 or 4 generations ago, but in the last 3 to 4 generations, the riches or the wealth of the family was lost. There were a lot of accidents, a lot of ill luck in the family. People have committed suicides or their addictions in the families, issues in the families. Very few people later on succeeded in the bloodline, and then a lot of narcissistic people are born in the family. If this is how the situation is, it simply means that these ill intentions of the ancestors or the curses on the family just got passed from generation to generation, and now the present generation is taking the burden of the previous 5 to 6 generational trauma or their intentions. Whereas if you look at people around you, those who are actually succeeding in life, they may not be as intelligent as you are, as capable of doing better work as you are, or as qualified as you are. Maybe they came from very downtrodden families, but then their parents, their grandparents wanted their children to succeed. When somebody is born in a poor family and the father or the mother in the poor family want a child to succeed, they're constantly motivating the child, constantly appreciating the child's presence in their life. Every small thing is appreciated. They are encouraged, they are given the best possible environment within the means to grow. Opportunities are provided. They're constantly praised, respected by their family members, parents, or grandparents. You will notice that those children, even they come from poverty, after 2 or 3 generations, they become very wealthy. And the reason they become very wealthy is because their parents and grandparents, the intention, the drive in them was to get their children or grandchildren into very top positions. intentions were very pure towards the next generation. This purity of their intentions is a blessing for the child. Their auric field flows beautifully, and hence they attract opportunities, they attract wealth, health, good relationships, they prosper, they succeed in life. So this is how the intentions of parents or grandparents, it affects the child. When somebody is having a spiritual awakening process and they understand how all this works, they're doing sadhana to increase their body vibration. And when they move into high vibrational states, they come out of the ill luck. They come out of the ill luck which was caused by the bad intentions of the parents or the grandparents. When you move into higher vibration, all the negative intentions of the parents and grandparents just falls away from your psyche. Once you come out of ill luck, your potential, true potential comes out into the external world. You have more finances, you have more abundance, you feel protected, you will heal yourself, and you're actually healing all the generations after you. So this generational trauma is not transferred to the next generations. It stops with you. You are removing the generational trauma from the DNA. And hence in the future generations, spiritually evolved souls can be born in the family. Pain, fear is not transferred to the next generation. Their auric field flows strongly. And the children grow up to be empowered individuals. The energy of our ancestors, it is present within us. Their intentions can affect us. When they are in competition with their own progeny, their intentions are corrupted. When parents are living for image building, when whatever the child does, it reflects upon their personal image, they will punish the child because the child did not perform well in school, because their image got spoiled. They will punish the child because somebody said something to them, and they're using the child as a means to get rid of their anger. So when they're doing this with the child, their intention towards the own child is corrupted. And the child grows up as a deprived person, as a person who's not able to have a healthy relationship with himself or herself. Their reputation, their health, their wisdom, their efforts, their potentiality, their a lot of things which they're capable of doing, it is not known to them. They don't know themselves. They grow up not able to understand who they are, what potential they have, what skills they have. They don't understand themselves in relationships. They attract negative people. You will even notice that there are a lot of accidents happening in and around them. Small things. When they start a business, maybe the office machinery will stop working. They bought all brand new machinery. These machines work very well in other offices, but somehow in their office all these machines do not work. Even such things happen around this person. It's like this person is attracting a lot of ill luck. Small accidents on a daily basis, small fights on a daily basis happens because the auric field is not flowing strongly in that person. And they are experiencing frequent depression, a kind of lowness, they even experience loneliness, inner loneliness, anger, a lot of negativity, negative thoughts. So all these things are part of this depleted auric field. But if this person understands what transgenerational trauma is, and that this trauma has the power to transform their life, and when they work towards transforming their life, they do sadhana, and this sadhana clears away all the unnecessary intentions, the unnecessary voices that are running in their mind, then this person turns into a very spiritually evolved, high vibrational soul. The kind of soul that has healed itself, the kind of soul that is a blessing to the next generations in the family, and the kind of soul that is empowered, which can even help others to heal. So it is very important to understand how the intentions of the parents can either make or break a child. So if you have received lot of ill intentions from your parents, then you need to do sadhana to heal yourself, to stop the transgenerational trauma at your level and not pass it on to the next generation. There is a subject called epigenetics. So epigenetics, it talks about how the environment and behaviors can affect the next generation. So the DNA structure does not get affected, but the way the gene expresses itself, it changes when one lives in a conducive environment. It comes out different, and if the same person is in a aggressive environment, then the gene expression changes. So here, when somebody undergoes trauma, then the gene expression is changing, and when this trauma is moving from one generation to next generation, the way the next generation is expressing, it is expressing themselves through all this trauma. But when we are reversing the trauma through sadhana, because this kind of the gene expression is reversible, you can change it. And what changes it is the sadhana, your one pointed decision to stop this with you and not allow this to go to the next generation, and do the inner work to heal yourself. This is what changes your gene expression, and you have cleared the slate for the next generation. Namaste.